The Box Seat, brought to you by our stable of sponsors: Woodland Stud, Brecon Farms, New Zealand Bloodstock Standardbred, Stonewall Stud, The Clubs, Alexandra Park, Cambridge, Addington and Ashburton, Garrard's Horse and Hound, and IRT. It's your horse and our passion. Hi everyone, welcome into another edition of Your Box Seat. A big thank you to our stable of sponsors. Michael Guerin's joined me as per the norm. Excellent weekend of harness racing, Michael. We get to review that and build towards one of the great races, the Brecon Farms Easter Cup.
Yeah, hi Greg, big hi to everybody watching around the country, or of course our friends in Australia. Huge turnover at Addington last week. They had big fields and exceptional horses, including the early favourites for Pacer and Trotter of the Year. But Greg, we may have seen a rattling of those cages. By no means am I saying horses like Self Assured or Sunday Sun may not claim those titles, but horses like Bolt for Brilliance and Amazing Dream are suggesting the fight isn't over yet.
Yeah, you're not wrong, Michael. Let's get into the review of Addington from last Friday night, starting with the 19th running of the What the Hill Trotting Oaks. We'll get Matthew Cross to bring them home and get plenty of comment post-race.
Far side, Mexicana, Elderbaron Floss is coming. Wide out, want to play with me, and time up the hill. It's Elderbaron Floss and Mexicana, want to play with me, wider out. Elderbaron Floss just in front, and Elderbaron Floss won the Trotting Oaks. Elderbaron Floss and Colin Philippi to get there. Second, want to play with me. Mexicana third, fourth, time up the hill.
Congratulations, Murray. That's got to be a huge thrill.
Yes, it was, Greg. Lovely. Yeah, really pleased. Pleased for the owners, and she's a lovely filly.
Motokarara Sunday to Addington Raceway Group Race Friday night. It doesn't happen too often.
No. But she didn't have to do too much in between. Road work most of the time, Greg, and yeah, really happy.
Barrier 1, once that came out, I'm sure the smile was pretty wide on your face because it is a huge advantage, isn't it?
Yes, I was actually talking to the owner on the phone, and I was emptying the manure heap, and he actually told me one, and we were both really happy. Yeah.
Your great mate Colin DeFilippi's sitting in the cart, and he's had a lot to do with her progress, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's looked after her really well and done a great job, and nice and cool with her to keep her calm, and good fella.
You know your way around a trotter. Clover Don did such a good job for you. How's she to handle? Because I know you had some fun with him.
Oh yes, yeah. She's been a wee bit feisty, Greg, but she's come really relaxed lately, and yeah, real happy with her.
Congratulations on winning the Oaks. Now you'll press forward and go to the Derby?
Oh, I think so, Greg. Yeah, as long as she comes through this good, I'm sure she will. She's a good eater in that, and yeah, we'd have to give it a go.
Well, she's gone good, but there's one just gone better.
Yeah, that's right, Greg. Yeah, she had to work really hard off the gate and done a bit more around the corner too, and yeah, just couldn't quite get there in the finish.
She was just down on her game in her last couple, but clearly she's back on the rise. Will she go to the Derby?
I think so. Well, Mark and Trevor, they'll just discuss that over the next few days and decide a plan for her. But you know, the way she's going, I think she'll improve a lot off tonight's run as well.
Pretty solid performance from her.
Yeah, it was, Greg. Yeah, I had to do a little bit to find the front, but had a good run in front after that, and I wasn't beaten far, so look, we're pretty happy. We'll probably post her home and wait for these races at Auckland, Sire Stakes and Trotting Derby, and look, she'll bounce back, I'm sure.
So a really good performance there by Elderbaron Floss. He's an old school trainer, Michael. Murray Allfield races this one's for the Swains, and also Mrs Hudson's in the ownership too. 3 back on the fence, got a beautiful run. Colin DeFilippi actually got 5 days suspension for his drive. I think it was whip related, but those two, Murray and Colin, they've been around the traps for a long time. They've got themselves a really nice racehorse here.
It's a real traditional Canterbury harness racing story. Guys who've known each other for a long time. The Swains, Stephen Swain, who does the bailage work for Murray Oldfield, saying, well, hold on, you give us plenty of work. We would like you to buy a horse. Our business was done 20 years ago. And as Murray said, he was thrilled to have that opportunity, but he only trains a small team these days. He said to Stephen, well, okay, when the horse breaks in, we'll find another trainer for it. And he said, no, we're happy for you to do it. So got to love those type of stories. Loyalty all around. Good filly who's worth a bit of money now, of course, because she's got that group race next to her name, Greg. So really cool to see Murray in the winner's circle. He was a bit nervous, actually, for his interview with you, not because of you, wasn't it? It was because he just doesn't like being on camera very often. But he did say it was great to have those experiences too. So look, really happy with to see somebody else getting a group race at Addington, because it's not easy to do. Second horse was okay. Yep. Interesting comment there, which we'll get to later in the show, from Hayden Cullen. He said, we're happy enough with who you asked about the Derby. He said, we'll let Mark and Trevor have a think about that. So I get the feeling Mark Purdon's having more hands-on involvement with Hayden. Hayden's still the boss, but Mark helping out. And I think, speaking to Natalie Rasmussen last week for hrnz.co.nz, I think that's going to be the case a little bit more in the next 2 months heading toward the Jewels. And that's important for punters to know, Greg, because that means Hayden's got some pretty serious firepower, unofficial stable hands on the books now, who may help the team overall.
Yeah, and the other horse out of that race, Time Up the Hill, who loomed up to win the race, spoke to Michael Ward about her progress. She'll go to the Derby too. And then he said, we're on the road. We're going to Auckland. I've got a horse good enough to be competitive. She actually trotted the bend better than she did in the straight. Ken Barron saying he thought he was on the winner at the top of the straight, but yeah, she just got a little bit rocky in her gait. So I think it's quite deep, the fillies section, and therefore taking on the boys in the Derby. That doesn't surprise me. The top 4 home there will all make their way to that race, and Salvo wasn't actually too bad for Jack Harrington and Gavin Smith. Expect to see that horse winning in its own grade. With Brecon Farms, let's go to the trotting performance of the week. It was from this horse, Bolt for Brilliance, Tony Herlihy at his absolute best, and this horse flying around Addington.
It's Bolt for Brilliance, 120 to go. Muscle Mountain ran to second. Up the inside, Vacation Hill from Sunday Sun, but it's Bolt for Brilliance. Bolt for Brilliance scores 2 lengths, Muscle Mountain. Vacation Hill third. Sunday Sun ran 4th.
Well, that was the real Bolt.
Yeah, no, he's been going good race, but like you say, he just sort of probably just let that wee bit of kill in him. But I did think the trip down, I was hoping the trip down would just sort of wake him up again and peak him for hopefully the next few weeks. He's got the Road Cup after this meeting down here, and yeah, he's only 4-year-old too. You got to remember that too, Greg. So we've been tough on him, but yeah, no, he's a lovely horse.
Winning of that race, staying in front of Sunday Sun.
Yeah, and that's right. And probably Sunday Sun hasn't had a race since New Year's Eve or whatever was the last run. It was a fair while ago, and we know he'll improve a fair bit off that. So, yeah.
Home in 55.8. He's showing that sort of speed at Alexandra Park, but they're telling me that's the quickest last 800 metres off the front in a trotting race here. So that just shows you how quick he is.
Yeah, no, he has got some speed, you know, and to be fair, he did it quite nice. I was quite pleased with the way he did it, and travelled well all the way, and yeah, no, he's obviously enjoying his trip down south.
Tony, will he go to the mile next week, or will it be straight into the Group 1?
I think we'll probably just go to the Group 1 at this stage. He's only been a 4-year-old. I don't think I need to go there, and yeah, I think that run will blow him out a fair bit more, and he's had a big trip down and everything, but Chanel Lawson's been looking after him and done a great job.
Johnny's gone good. Were you happy?
Yeah, I was actually. He's blown up a fair bit over the back and need that badly, so I was spotting them 10 metres. I went round them and we just run a quick cut last half. So he's still stuck to his guns up the straight, but a lot of improvement. So yeah, we'll step up the work now.
Yeah, he's got a few more grand finals to come ahead of him, hasn't he?
Yeah, dead right. I was probably a bit light on him after Auckland. We sort of give him a few weeks out in the paddock, and being a bit older now, and you don't be too hard on him. I think he's just got away on us a wee bit.
So he'll miss the mile and make his way through to the Fredshaw.
Yeah, that's all going well. We'll go there next, and yeah, looking forward to it.
And he will be looking forward to it. He'll want to put a bit more pressure on Bolt for Brilliance, though. Allowing him to run home that quickly just meant he dashed away, Michael. Muscle Mountain, excellent. Another 4-year-old. Vacation Hill, yep, she was good too, Michael, in third. So plenty to like about the top 3 or 4 there, but Bolt for Brilliance was he was just too good.
Looked a different horse, Greg, than he had at Alexandra Park this campaign. He was outstanding last campaign. This campaign he's looked a bit dopey at Alexandra Park. He's been very lethargic early in his races and just mucked around. But last week, even in the first 200 metres, weaving through traffic, he was quick. He looked like a horse who wanted to race. And I think that's the key. Maybe at Alexandra Park he was getting a little bit lazy and content. He looked, for mine, about 3 lengths better than he had the previous start when he was beaten a nose by Temporale. We know how good he is, and we're not sure how good he's going to be because he's only 4 and this is his first time in open class. I'm not sure he can beat Sunday Sun next time, depending on how much fitter Sunday Sun is. Wanting to forgive him, Greg, but he was also run past by Vacation Hill and Muscle Mountain, so he performed 10% below his best, and hearing from John, that's a fitness thing. What's really interesting is who else is coming into play now. Majestic Man Australia, he comes back into play very shortly for the Auckland Carnival. Cracker Hill, Ultimate Stride, they go to Wyndham Thursday. Now, they're both open class type horses, but Cracker Hill in particular. Then, of course, we have Oscar Bonavina resuming this week at the Mile from Barrier 6. You put all those horses in the same place, Greg, and that starts to become a really interesting open class crop. It's different from some of the crops we've had in the past where you've had a Monbay dominator or a Marcoola dominator, or even those two clearly above the rest. We now have Sunday Sun as the best, but Majestic Man's the best sprinter. Bolt for Brilliance has Alexandra Park form. Cracker Hill's emerging. A lot of moving parts here, Greg, and I think our open class trotting ranks, with most of those horses pretty sound, have the potential for a golden next 12 or 18 months.
Yeah, totally agree, Michael. Really looking forward to the Fred Shaw, which will come off the back of that mile, but the interest there, we'll talk about that later, with Oscar Bonavina. The 41st running of the Vero Flying Stakes, the key lead-up race to the Diamond Creek New Zealand Derby. And the Northern Derby victor, his name is Krug. He found the front in this, and this is what he did to them.
It's all about faith. Arden's Ace, Pace and Pride running on with Yorokobi, but with 100 metres left to go, he is an absolute class act. Krug clear in the Flying Stakes. Krug too good for them. Second to go by Yorokobi. Third BD Joe. Fourth Pace and Pride.
Well, he was big and strong again.
Yeah, no, very excited with him. I'd like to think he'd be a touch better in 2 weeks' time. It's hard as a trainer to keep them super tight all the time, but that was a big thrill and a bonus, that win.
Blair was saying when he came back to scale that he was getting tired, but when you're going a 54-mile rate and you've done the miles that he's done in the last month, that was probably understandable.
Yeah, very much so. But he's probably 5 to 6k overweight at the moment, and as much as like I said earlier, to keep them tight, but that was a good effort, and for him to be tired, that was probably not a surprise.
Really good effort by the winner there, Michael, but some of those in behind, the likes of Yorokobi was excellent. I thought Luke John, he made up a heck of a lot of ground, and a couple of other nice runs in behind, but the favourite now for the Derby, and he thoroughly deserves that, is of course our reigning Northern Derby champion in Krug.
The way he won the Northern Derby, it's always going to be hard to beat him in the Derby at Addington because he was so dominant when things were against him. Really happy to see Blair back on the horse. It's his horse. I'd like to see him driving the horse, even though Tony did a super job in the north. Yorokobi, good, excellent. Luke John, really good. BD Joe coming back to his best. So lots of positives there, but more so than the fact that Krug is performing at his optimum at the moment, making him the Derby favourite. What's also making him so dominant is the failure of two others there. Regazo Mac over-raced, so willing to forgive on that, and his bubble hasn't burst. Not so sure about the bubble on It's All About Faith. He was poor in the Derby up north. He really punctured there at the 200, Greg, just gave up-ish. He races this week. I've had a fear all along with him that he may be a big speed horse who suits Menangle or America and doesn't develop into a good staying horse for the type of races you need to be in here as an older horse. Not saying he can't win the Jewels. Can't see how he wins the Derby. He'll need to turn that form around at Addington on Saturday night, Greg, to be given any chance in the Derby. But he's been, since Krug and him started racing, he's been the clear second or third favourite for every race. No matter where he draws, he's in the play. In the Derby now, for me, Greg, he's 25 to 1.
Yeah, I have to agree. And I spoke to Mark Purden. He said the disappointing thing with him was he didn't appear to try very hard. So that is a concern. Let's hear from the Beaten Brigade. Well, you'll be delighted with that.
Absolutely. It was a nervous 10 minutes up in the Stipes room, but yeah, they got a job to do, and in fact, grateful we come out with the great result.
Look, he had a nice economical trip, but he's always had that real change-up speed, hasn't he?
Yes, he has. He's probably been a little bit underrated right through. He just seems to be a horse that takes a bit of racing, and probably looked average last week, but he has improved a lot, and tonight showed it.
All right. Well, he showed that he's up to Derby class, a couple of weeks away from that. What do you do with him between now and then?
Have a couple of easy days, and then we'll start winding them down and get them ready for the big dance.
We can't let that Steve steal all the limelight, Amanda. You'll be stoked with that.
Yeah, look, he went super. I was really happy. He hit the line hard, and that's all we can ask for.
He's starting to show us traits of a pretty good horse because he doesn't just have to be in front like some thought.
Yeah, exactly. It was nice to see him run on as he did from behind tonight. It just goes to show that he is getting more versatile. So, yeah.
A little bit of natural improvement going into the Derby. Your confidence levels maybe just going up a touch.
Yeah, well, hopefully a nice draw would be nice. But yeah, he's settled in well. He's travelled well, and like you said, natural improvement. He should be okay.
Rock Legend?
He was good, Greg. Yeah, he boxed on well. He had a good run, and he's going to probably have to improve a bit to race in the Derby.
Bright green colours on Luke John, they were really flashing late at the line.
Yeah, they were. He kept coming to the line. Tony was really happy with his run, and he missed a bit of work when he first got down here, so I think there's still a fair bit more improvement in him.
It's all about faith, not quite at the level he was back in November, is he?
No, Mark was slightly disappointed with him still, so we'll just go back to the drawing board and try and get him right for another in a couple of weeks' time.
And Pace and Pride had an economical trip. What did you make of his finishing boost?
I thought he found the line well. He's backed up a couple of weeks in a row now, so I think he'll appreciate a freshen up over the next 2 weeks, and he should be a bit better again for the Derby.
So though were the beaten trainers in the main there, Michael, I did have a really good chat to Nathan Williamson. Yeah, he said he put the blinds on and he over-raced, and that was the end of his race effectively. So they'll come off. He said he's come through it fine. We see $2.25 now for Krug in the Derby. Would you take that? Is he that dominant? Do you believe if he draws 1 to 6 that he'll start in the red?
Oh, he'll start in the red if he draws the lead. I think 1 to 6 isn't as important as who's inside him at 1 to 6. Most horses would hand up to him. Pretty hard to think of a horse in the race who wouldn't. Outside, potentially, Regarzo Mackett. He might have more gate speed than him, Greg. I think 225 is fair. In saying that, you're also about a 40% chance of drawing the second line where he starts $4.
Yes.
So he's the horse who will tick all the boxes. He's the horse who will tick all the algorithms because he's winning big races. Blair Orange is the leading driver in the country. Chrissy and Cran have a good strike rate. So there's lots of things that would make the robots tick for him. But if he draws where people think he'll lead, he could start at $1.50.
Yep. And he was that dominant once again. He deserves to be in that position. So that was a look at the Vero Flying Stakes. Let's move on to the Leithfield Station, the old race that's been pushed around a wee bit. We had a small field, but gee, we had a brilliant performance here from Amazing Dream. We'll hear from Hayden Cullen about getting the trifecta post-race.
For a run to the inside, Amazing Dream kicking over Spankham, then Self-Assured. It's Amazing Dream holding off Spankham. Amazing Dream, she's going to score. Amazing Dream just in front, she won it. Beats Spankham, who ran her close. Self-Assured third. AG's White Sox will run fourth.
Well, she just reminded us how good she is, Amazing Dream.
Yeah, she's a super mare, Greg. Yeah, she never ever goes a bad one, and she just had a slight freshen up, and she sort of showed that she might have needed it, and her work's been great at home, and she's proved that tonight.
Not only did she prove it, but we just got another example of that Natalie Rasmussen's ability.
Yeah, she's a freak. Yeah, she's an amazing driver, and it's great to have her on the team.
What did you make of the other two? Self-Assured was in that early burn. That was a sensational battle between him and AG's White Sox, and Spankham sat off them and probably had his chance to run Amazing Dream down.
Oh, definitely he did. Yeah, he's probably the only one that didn't really do any work in the running, but he's blown up over the back a fair bit, and he'll take a lot of improvement out of it as well. And Self-Assured, he's gone amazing. Yeah, he's gone a super race. He's worked really hard early stages, and he's still fought to the line as well.
So that was Hayden Cullen there regarding their big three there, Michael. Excellent Amazing Dream. She did have the advantage of sitting off the speed, which was a really opening burn there was quite sensational. AG's White Sox was intent in staying in front, and this race, of course, the old Alan Matson, I was trying to think of that name. It's got a lot of history, and the quality of horse that lined up there last week now make their way towards the Brecon Farms Easter Cup.
Yeah, an indication that you don't always need to have big fields to have good racing. That was very interesting at the start. I've got no issue with what Ricky May did. Ricky's a very senior driver, and he obviously wanted to lead and had the bat up, and he rolled the dice. If he had handed to Self-Assured, he doesn't beat him. That's just a fact. He doesn't beat him if he hands. So he has a chance of winning if he stays in front. Didn't work out, roll the dice, have a crack. Self-assured, his chances were finished after 800 metres once he attacked that hard, which Mark would probably think Ricky, being Ricky, would usually hand up. So again, no one's done anything wrong there, just good competitive racing. Amazing Dream was quite a remarkable run because Natalie ended up last on the inside. It's quite easy with the colours all looking the same to get confused about who was where, but she was last on the inside, pulled out and around, which is extremely rare for a driver to do. But I can't think of a horse, Greg, in my time in harness racing, which is about 30 years, as good but as hard to work out as Amazing Dream. Because she just came out there and beat a Miracle Mile winner and a horse who won an Auckland and a New Zealand Cup and sat parked doing it.
Yep.
She came out the Auckland Cup, came from behind Spankham and beat him. So if a 4-year-old mare is doing this, and the most obvious one would be an Adore Me type horse or Armalite, those type of horses are doing that, Mainland Banner, then you think, well, they're just going to thrash their own sex, just thrash them. And yet she goes back to Mare's company. The last 2 times she's contested a Group 1 against the mare, she's been beaten. Well, as far as I can remember, there's never been a blueprint for that ever. No. I've never known a 4-year-old mare who would dominate the New Zealand Cup winner. Self-assured bolted in the New Zealand Cup.
Yep.
She just sat parked and thrashed him, and yet she can go back to her own sex. And even if she does win, when she won the lead-up race to the Queen of Hearts and the lead-up race to the Breeders' Stakes, she didn't beat them by much.
No.
I just think maybe she's a horse who really 100% needs a fight and needs a battle and needs them to go crazy, Greg. But yeah, as I said, I like to think I know a bit about the history of harness racing. I can't think of another horse who has that swings ups and down depending on the tempo of the race.
Yep.
And I don't know, maybe how angry she is.
Yeah, well, that worked out perfectly. 220.3, so equalled her New Zealand record, win number 19 in her career. And Natalie seems to get the best out of her. She knows rather what's best for her in a race, and she loves chasing. And you're right, she loves a dogfight, and that's been clearly evident. She's been beaten by Beyond Words, and she's been beaten by Watch Me Now at Group 1 level on her own sex. So, yep, quite rightly, Michael, you point that out, and it's made it quite difficult. What about the Easter Cup this week? Self-assured won off the 20 metres. That worries me a little bit. Goes back to a stand. He's the favourite for the race at $2.80. We go out to $3.40 for Amazing Dream, $6 Spankham, $5 Pembroke Playboy. The Southerners have come to town.
Yeah, I really like the fact that the 3 Southerners, Vintage Cheddar, You May Collect and Pembroke Playboy are there, because there's enough about them to say they shouldn't just be handing up to the All-Stars if they don't want to. If that's the way they're best driven, that's fine, but they don't have to. They can step and run, and they're all horses who would go between 355 and 357 for the 2 miles. So I think they had a real new dimension and a little bit of a mini New Zealand Cup preview feel to the whole thing. I agree with you on Self-Assured. Don't like him 1 off 20 metres as much as I would if he was 3 off 20 metres. He can still clearly win. He was very, very good last week, and he did lock wheels at the top of the straight. So there's a total forgive on that. Oddly, for a horse who bolted in the New Zealand Cup and is probably still quasi-favourite for Pacer of the Year, he gets beat a lot. You know, he was beaten in the Methven Cup, he was beaten in the Ashburton Flying Stakes, he was beaten when he came to Cambridge. He's been beaten a few times now for a horse who won the New Zealand Cup by a cricket pitch. I think this Saturday night, Greg, may decide the Pacer of the Year. I'm not saying Krug's out of play, because if he wins the Derby and the Jewels, maybe he comes into play. But if Amazing Dream wins it this week, it's really hard not to make a case that she might be Pacer of the Year. And probably same for Self-Assured. People tend to gravitate towards the New Zealand Cup winner. So a lot in stake here. Spankham's interesting because he never goes a bad race, but people just seem to now accept he's not going to win a 2-mile race, even though he won the Methven Cup. And Amazing Dream, if you pick her to win, every time I pick her to win, she gets beat, Greg, and every time I pick her to get beat, she wins. So maybe I'll do them a favour and pick her to get beat. Just on Amazing Dream, she's been invited to the new race in Queensland, and the indication, speaking to Hayden, were that he thinks she'll probably go for the new North American-based owners, but he won't be taking her.
Right.
Now, I've already spoken to Mark and Natalie, who intend to go visit Natalie's relatives at some stage, maybe, if the border's open, in Queensland, but they said, well, we're not taking horses. If we go, we're on a sabbatical,
Yep.
we're not going to take horses. So they'll need a new trainer for Amazing Dream. You would think Vicky Rasmussen may be the logical person because the horse spent time there last year, but they were also talking about Kevin Pizzuto taking the horse over had it gone to the Ladyship Mile. Now that's New South Wales and Queensland's Queensland. So you would think Vicky would be the favourite, but there's new owners. They may have a different view on that. But Hayden said, I and my staff won't be going. I don't have the numbers, I can't do it. I'm still bedding this whole operation in.
Yep.
So Amazing Dream, Greg, I would think could have an extended season. And let's not forget, once she goes to Australia, Greg, she's 4 till December 31.
Yes.
So she can go to Australia, come back, race at the New Zealand Cup as a 5-year-old, win it, and then go back to Australia.
Still
and
be 4.
and win the 4-year-old Breeders' Crown for Mears, which she would win by, well, she probably wouldn't win because she gets beaten in Mears races. So there's a lot of things on the table for Amazing Dream now that this is this discombobulation between the two seasons.
All right, what about 1 in the Easter Cup? Who will you be tipping on top?
I'll go self-assured, thinking he steps, because I know you can never prove whether the horse is going to step or not. I think if they all step away and everybody's happy with themselves, I think self-assured's the horse to beat. What about for you?
Yeah, I'm the same. If he steps and gets away on an even keel, on his performance last week, I thought it was exceptional. He is absolutely the one to beat. We'll come back on the other side of this quick break with our big stable of sponsors and preview some of the other features coming up on a big night at Addington Raceway. Yes, it's Easter Saturday night. Welcome back into your box seat. Just on that Easter Saturday night, a $30,000 terminating pick 6 will be in operation. Before we get into a couple of their other features there, let's go back to the Neverly R heat from last Friday night. The Judder Bars got on the road of La Rosa. Michael, as one of the owners, Grant Hatton, pointed out to me before the race. She got well and truly worked up, and that was the end of her race. But Life's a Beach in the Woodlands colours dashes up the inside. This is the Speeding Spur ownership group. A few of the All Blacks in there, Andy Ellis and Dave Hewitt, and of course Dick Taylor's in there too. She's very, very well bred, this horse, a full sister to Party On. It's a deep family. She got a beautiful run and she beat arguably the best 3-year-old filly going around. Well, I think she definitely is, and Better Twist.
Yeah, and really good to see one of the most popular guys in harness racing, and Tony Barron trained a winner. I mean, no one ever doubts Tony's ability, but he's a seller, so he often sells a lot of horses. So some of the better horses he breeds, he doesn't train. And even when he gets horses up in racing, he's sold a lot of horses to WA. So this one won't be sold because it's not his.
No.
You forgot to mention Kieran Reid. That'll be nice. Just forget the bloke who
just chuck him in.
Helped us with a couple of World Cups. But yeah, so obviously it's a syndicate horse, so it'll be staying in the country. And I'll be thrilled to see Tony having Group 1 opportunities because he doesn't get them very often because of his business model. Must be a pretty good horse. As you mentioned, half to Party On and Lineup, who of course won both derbies last year in Australia. So she's obviously pretty good. Always willing to forgive Better Twist when she has to sit park. But as we've said on the show several times before, when she has to sit park Better Twist, you are gambling that she's going to be 2 lengths better than the other horses in the race, Greg. That's why I'm never happy to take $1.50 for her. There's always that risk because often, not always, but often she doesn't lead. And if they don't lead, you're taking $1.50. They better be Lyell Creek.
Yeah, they better be.
So happy enough to be steering away from her in those situations. Put her in the Oaks, though, where she's likely to get the lead because she'll scare them.
Yep.
She'll probably win again. La Rosa.
Well, she's been back to the trials, Michael, twice this week. So she obviously had to trial twice before she races again.
She's
Mark
getting about
Jones
it.
said, right, you can get this right for a start. Monday,
she's
Tuesday
being a
trials,
smart ass.
and she's in Friday night at Addington. She's off the unruly in the last race there. So yeah, she's going to be. She's been to the races a few times in the last week anyway. Let's hope she bounces back.
She's being a smart ass. That's what she's doing. It appears that Mark's a smart trainer, and there would be no physical issues there.
No.
It wouldn't be like, there's a joint or something that's annoying her because she wouldn't be racing and she sure as hell wouldn't be trialling twice. So that's just a mental thing. A lot of times it can happen with the mares and the fillies, and she becomes almost a no bet. But yes, we judder-barred her last week by saying she could potentially win. that was probably the end of her chances.
That was, we did. That was an interesting scenario though. Sam Motley got fined $600 for failing to take her horse out of the way. Of course, $600 is a fair old whack, Michael, but she was galloping in behind the gate. We've seen plenty of drivers in the past bump into another horse or make sure that it was a false start. What's your attitude towards what unfolded there?
It goes back a long way. About 20 years ago, there was a case on New Zealand Cup Day where a horse galloped and the driver deliberately collected
Captain
another
Peacock
horse.
won the race. Yep, I remember that.
And deliberately collected another horse to cause a false start. It's a dangerous thing to do because there's metal carts and all sorts of stuff involved. But if a horse gallops and the rules are you're supposed to take it out of the way, what happens if you're at barrier 5? Now, La Rosa was in barrier 1, but what happens if you're in barrier 5? And if I owned a horse, and La Rosa's probably worth a couple of $100,000. If I owned a horse worth a couple of $100,000 and it started galloping wearing hopples, I don't want Sam to duck to the inside of the track.
No.
I don't want a horse going down the inside of the track if I'm worth a couple of $100,000. If it gallops in that situation, well, if she wants to hold her line, I think you should be allowed to hold her line because there's nowhere to go outside.
No.
And if you're going to go inside, you're getting to the inside of the track. I don't pay my driver to run to the inside of the track.
No.
I understand the stewards. I'm not saying they're wrong because they need to try and set a precedent. But I do think once a horse gallops in a score-up, I think that entire score-up, Greg, should be canned and start again, unless it's galloping somewhere where it can't possibly affect another horse. You gallop, there's only one front line, number 6 gallops, by all means, keep pressing on. But when you've got horses in behind in the second line and a horse gallops, just can the start. There's no point saying the driver's responsibility is to do this because they can't go out, and I don't want my driver going to the inside of the track.
No.
But I also do think, Greg, that I don't think drivers should have the option to decide whether they stay in barrier 1.
Right.
Because
what happens if you've had a bet though?
Well,
and you go from 1 to 9 or 1 to 1 ruling.
Well, but the horse has already done something wrong, so it may deserve to be punished, or it may not deserve to be punished, and you go to 1. But I don't think the drivers are the right people to make that call. Not because they would do the wrong thing, because they're always going to stay there.
Yeah, of course they are. Yeah, well, of course they are.
I think we'll see one driver, I don't know, once a year go to the outside of the front line.
They're not going to move.
I don't think it's the right call because if I'm in the Derby and I'm driving 100 to 1 chance and Krug's drawn barrier 2 and I really think I'm going to gallop again, I'm not going to go to barrier 9.
No.
There's no chance I'm going to go to barrier 9.
No.
So the stewards either make the call or they don't make the call.
Yep.
But like in galloping, for example, if you had a horse who went into the gates for the Caulfield Cup and it was fractious, you wouldn't say to the jockey, "What do you reckon, mate?
Should we start?"
The jockey says, "We're starting."
We're starting. Yeah,
so I think that anomaly, while I understand it gives the drivers some power and they may have the feel on the reins of how the horse is going, I don't think many drivers are going to say in a Group 1, actually, I'm happy to go to the outside of the front line, because if they do, that'll be the last time they drive that horse.
Yep, no question about that. And John Morrison and Tony Barron, they got the business done there in that heat of the Neville. Let's go to an Addington preview now and have a look at the Majestic Sun 2-year-old trotting stakes. Here's the horse that's favourite. It's come up $1.70. 2 from 2, beautifully bred by Love You. Robert Dunn, John Dunn. It's going to be pretty hard to beat this horse from a nice barrier of 4, Michael.
Look, you're right. I don't have enough data on these, Greg, to come up with another horse to beat it. I've seen them trial, I've seen them race. They haven't gone any better than this. I don't know if it's going to gallop. I don't know if it's going to trot. I'm going to watch the race. I'm not going to bet. That's as honest as I can be, Greg. I haven't seen enough of these horses to know, and I've seen as much as everybody else. They're still very much a crop who's developing, but this horse looks dialed in, trotting relatively squealy for a 2-year-old. Robert and John are flying at the moment, so it picks itself because, Greg, I simply can't find anything else to beat it.
No, I'm with you there. Toro Stride makes its debut, of course, the big purchase from the Baron Bloodstock team by Emilio Mary Rosati and Phil Williamson trains. It starts from the outside of the second row and is about a $5.50 second favourite there. Let's have a look at, well, I suppose it's a controversial starting point at Addington Raceway. Trotter's Flying Mile it'll be, but it does have the return of this horse, Michael, Oscar Bonavina. Pretty soft trial for him here. His sectionals were good, but it's just great to have him back, to be fair.
It's still American Pride.
He's very much a forgotten horse, Greg, as we see him here down the outside. That's him beating Cracker Hill, so Cracker Hill goes to Wyndham tomorrow off 40 metres, and we all know how good he is. There's no doubts about the talent of Oscar Bonavita. I think he arrived on the scene so quickly and the raps on him were so big, and they were deserved because his times were so fast, that we expected him just to turn up and be winning these open class races. And when he didn't, we got really disappointed with him. As it turned out, he had a bone chip in his knee, which may have been annoying him. That's been obviously taken out. He's been away from the track for a year, Greg. I think this is a good comeback race for him. And while he's drawn barrier 6 in a mobile mile, which I just don't like at all, and you can have your own views on mobile mile racing, it's something different. For me, probably no, but I still think he'll win because I think they can press forward on him, and even sitting parked, or he can probably just press.
So would you take the $1.90 then?
I'm probably not going to bet in the race, Greg, because there's enough moving parts to it that make it annoying. But I do think that they're not going to go back at the start. So if they go forward at the start and they really push the button, do they get the lead off a horse like the Dominator? Probably. If the Dominator gallops early, which he can sometimes do, then they just run straight to the front. So I'm happy enough with the $1.90. He's a very good horse. Interesting time for him coming up. As I said, all those horses we mentioned at the top of the show, those really good trotters are race hardened. I'll be surprised if he can beat Sunday's Sun and Bolt for Brilliance in these good races. But if he can, Greg, then he goes from, being the forgotten horse of open class trotting to the top of the crop. So really interesting to see how the next month of his life unfolds.
All right, interesting too. The mile record at Addington's 157.5, and it was set by a horse called Yankee One in a C2 to C3 race back in 2013. And the mare's record, Michael, was held by Wen, set in 1963. So there's a few mares there. Time in a Bottle, Overzealous. There's Prez the Bell, they've all Splash Cola. They've all got an opportunity to set a record there at Addington.
What's the mare's record? How quick? About 63.
202.8.
Well, that should probably be broken.
Should get broken. I'm pretty sure that'll get broken on
Saturday. But of course, it only sticks if it wins. The horse has to
that's
win.
right. Yep, so absolutely.
Maybe this time next week, we'll still. Was that 1963? Did you say?
1963. I've got that off Brian Rabbit. I'm pretty sure it's right.
Cardigan Bay won the New Zealand Cup.
That's correct. Yep. Remarkable, isn't it?
How old were you then?
Yeah. Let's move on from that, Michael. I think you're closer to it than me, but milestone set last weekend. We talked about it building into the weekend of harness racing here in New Zealand, and Tony Herlihy. He did the business, wasn't even in Auckland when it happened, but this is win number 1,000, Lord Verde winning at Alexandra Park.
He's a sure thing, Lord Verde. The New Zealand Trotting Hall of Fame sponsored the race. The Iceman Tony Herlihy goes into the New Zealand Trotting Hall of Fame with 1,000 training successes now.
Well, congratulations, Tony. You've joined a really illustrious group.
Yeah, and I think they said that it's only me and Mark who have driven and trained 1,000, so that's an accomplishment too, and I'm quietly proud of it. Yeah, so.
Lord Verde up there at Alexandra Park. Tony Cameron in the bike, so there was, I guess, some special sentiment in that. The fact that you weren't there, well, won't be lost on you, I'm picking.
No, and Bolt come out 10 minutes later and won here, so. Yeah, no, and it's like I said, it's a big team effort with Tony Cameron driving them and all my staff up there, and Chanel down here with Bolt and the other trotter, and so it's always a big team effort, as we know, and my wife Suzanne, who made me take up training, or wanted me to take up training rather than just freelance driving, which was a very easier option at the time, but so it's been very gratifying and very good.
Let's go back to that transition, Tony. So Mark moves south and you get the opportunity. Not in your wildest dreams within 2 decades would you thought that 1,000 was achievable. What were your goals to start with?
Just training a couple of winners, and to be fair, the owners I think that me and Mark had then, a lot of them, or nearly all of them, are still with me now. So good people, and we've had some fun along the way with some nice horses, and so it's always a big team effort. But I've got to thank the owners who've stuck with me and are with me now.
20 Group 1s as a trainer. You've had some magic horses. One over Kenny winning a Rowe Cup. In fact, she won 3 Group 1s. Bang, bang, bang. It was quite amazing that period when she was racing. Gotta Go Cullen winning Auckland Cup is the one that stands out amongst the Group 1 training successes. And are they more satisfying for you?
Well, every win's satisfying, but I suppose money-wise, the groups are the ones to win. But every win is satisfying for the owners of that maiden that won today. You know, I know a few of the boys in the pub in Petone would be very happy, and yeah, so they're all pretty special. But like you say, a Group 1 race is a great thing to win, and very appreciative of winning those ones.
What's ahead, Tony? What else would you like to achieve in the training ranks? We know what you've done as a driver with over 3,600 wins, but what else is there for A.G Herlihy?
Yeah, I think just keeping on like we have been doing, and we've got a nice little team of horses, and Bolt for Brilliance, he's doing a good job for us. So as long as he stays sound, and he'll keep going, I'm pretty sure. And yeah, got a few other nice ones there poking along. So yeah, we just keep ticking over and keep having fun.
Michael Guerin wants to know, you've earned over $13 million in stakes as a trainer. When would you think a shout would be possible?
If Bolt had won 2 weeks ago, he might have shouted me.
Yeah, well, it didn't, Tony, for the multi-punters. Look, I'm so proud of Tony. Obviously, I would say he's a friend of mine, but he's a friend to almost everybody in the industry. And look, he did a super job to turn around from being a catch driver who everybody knew as a freakish talent, very similar in some ways to a Chris Johnson or an Opie, quite laid back. And when you think of those two people, you don't think about them becoming horse trainers, because it takes a lot of organisation and payments of accounts and an awful lot of stuffing around, Greg. When Tony first suggested going into training, and Suzanne was such a huge part of that motivation and telling him to do it, I said to him, well, this is for the Herald. I said, well, can we get a photograph of the colours, new colours, so people can see what they look like? And he said, no, I don't want a photograph first. It was the first time I'd ever seen him nervous, first time I'd ever seen him not joking and carrying on as freelance jockeys and trainers can do, because they don't care. It's another horse, off they go, and they give it back to somebody. So for him to go from being that personality to employing an enormous amount of staff, I've raced horses with Tony, and he does a super job with them. He's got a very good eye at the yearling sales, which Bolt for Brilliance is an indication of. For him to go from that personality change, Greg, to being as serious enough to run a major business for a year, very successfully, averaging around 45, 50 wins a season, Greg, it's something he can be really proud of, because, as he said, he could have stayed just driving and been our greatest ever driver, but I don't think rocking up to Manawatu on a Tuesday night would still be burning his fires at 61 or 62. No,
it's just been a remarkable effort by him to do it within 20 years. Let's have a look. He became the 9th to achieve the 1,000 wins. Obviously, the Purdon family up the top there, Barry with over 2,500. The late Seth Donald and Derek Jones, both in that category too. So great names of our sport, Michael, and a massive achievement for, as you said, a guy who's friends to everybody. He mentioned Suzanne the 2 or 3 times in different functions that we spoke to him on Friday night at. He mentioned all of his staff, the likes of Chanel, who's down there with Bolt for Brilliance, and Tony Cameron. Here's some rules around the stables. I know mobile phones, they all have to be put away while they're working. You wouldn't have thought that from this guy, as you say, with his laid-back nature, but he's there to do a job, and the White Star stables have done an incredible job, and he really deserves all the plaudits he gets, and he's not finished at all, Tony. He's going to win a heck of a lot more races as a trainer and driver, I am sure of that. Let's go to the Alexandra Park review from the other night, dance time. We're continually talking about the Telfers, Steve and Amanda, and well, this horse just led, Michael, and dead set bolted in this race. 2:39.2, excellent time, and dance time was just simply too good.
Look, I didn't see this version of him coming back to racing. I think a year ago, this isn't even remotely a surprise for us. But he had such a bad form slump. It was terrible. He just totally lost form even in poor races. But Steve's a smart guy. We've had a big interview with him on the show last week. They work incredibly hard on their horses. They don't give up on their horses. Yes, they export horses, but they've got some older horses knocking around there, and some of them have had poor records for 6 months or so long, and Steve and Amanda have kept fighting through with those horses. So, look, he's done a super job, and the way he's racing, he'll just go sub 240 every day of the week. So he's not probably going to win the best races. He's not going to copy that very often. But if we can keep those free-for-alls, Greg, going throughout winter, he's a perfect horse for those because he'll turn up most weeks and do the job if he can maintain that type of form.
Yeah, some excellent runs in behind. American Dealer, outstanding. He'll make his way to the Derby, of course. And can go storming home down the outside. Typo just not quite at his best, but he got Greg O'Connor, of course, in the tipping stakes, so that probably didn't help his chances. Continuing on with a look at Alexandra Park, let's go to the Sires Stakes heat. This is one of the more impressive performances I've seen in a wee while, Michael. Montana Glory. That's him getting to the outside in the hands of Morris McKendry and the Barry Purdon Scott Phelan colours, but he was outstanding in this.
Look, if you watch harness racing for 20 years at Alexandra Park, juvenile fillies coming from last on the corner, well, that's almost unheard of. Talking about juvenile fillies, here's the Addington race last week. This is the heat of the Sires Stakes. This is the Wednesday meeting, and here's a bit of you up the inside. They always thought she was pretty good, getting home here, and yes, once again the Hayden Cullen team starting to flex its muscle, Greg. So she's pretty good. She's bred to be good. She's out of only 4U who won a Sires Stakes final, again in those Brecon colours. That'll be one of their filly lease syndicates. But going back to Alexandra Park, as I said, over 20 years you might have seen a handful of juveniles come from last on the bend. They never do it. This horse, Greg, obviously pretty darn good, and you get the feeling, and we said this a few weeks ago, once Hayden started to flex those 2-year-old muscle, it was going to change the dynamic of the freshman season.
Yes, second in that Addington heat was True Fantasy, who we'll talk about a little bit later on. She was excellent too. Franco Mack was successful also on the Wednesday, getting to the outside. This was the return of Natalie Rasmussen, Michael. First drive back since New Year's Eve, and paid about $8 for fans of hers.
And a typical Bettor's Delight, had been okay at the trials, turned up to the races, different type of horse. That's just a Bettor's for you. They do that so often. No disgrace for the second horse. Had a really long talk to Natalie about what her and Mark are doing with their careers in this sabbatical way in the next couple of months. And she said, yes, we will go to track work at Hayden's more often. So as mentioned at the top of the show, he's going to have that intellectual firepower to help him with those horses. And yes, we will pretty much be driving at most of the major meetings between now and the Jewels, which is effectively 2 months away. So any weight you put on the Cullen horses at the moment, Greg, I think you add 10% to that. Now you say, okay, they've got more firepower. Hayden's still the boss. We want to make that clear. But they do have two of the best in the business available, not only to drive, but to drive track work. And that's crucial, Greg. So wherever you price them in your head, reduced by 10% or 20%, and any chance you give them in a race percentage-wise, boost up by about the same.
And the tab bookies have opened the Sires Stakes for the fillies and the colts and geldings if you want to have a bet into those. Let's, with Garrards, go across the Tasman. Michael, let you take us through Bathurst. This was Mr. Ray. He was $1.55 favourite for this. He won the Sapling Stakes, of course, by Pet Rock. And a couple of people I hadn't heard of, Raymond Walker and Daryl Perrott, got the business done.
Yeah, watch this for a salute from Daryl Perrott, who's actually the farrier. It's a good salute. So that's the Gold Crown. That's the 2-year-old boys race. Now, this horse, Raymond Walker, actually used to have quite a big team. He only trains about a dozen horses now. Bred this horse, went to Pet Rock because it was well related, but a bit cheaper. Only cost $3,000. And now he's won the Sapling, he's won this race. And look, they just love it. For people in this part of the world, he's from Temora, which is the home of Paleface Adios, the Temora Terra. So for someone like Ray, who I spoke to on Sunday, that's as good as winning in the New Zealand Cup. That's their big go. Really interesting situation for these 2-year-olds now, because obviously their season goes to December 31, and most of the major races are going to be October, November, December. So they're going to have their season divided into 2 halves. Unlike our 2-year-old season, which starts and is compacted into 4 or 5 months, Greg, a lot of these horses now are going to go to the paddock. So they're going to have 2-year-old racing in March, go to the paddock, come back in July and start again. So the best 2-year-old who wins Bathurst Gold Crown at Group 1 level might be a totally different bunch of horses racing in the Breeders' Challenge in New South Wales or the Breeders' Crown in Victoria. So they've got a really different way of doing business there, which I don't mind because it means the 2-year-olds don't have to race through winter, but I'm still not totally convinced about this being the absolute best way to go. I'm not against it, but I'm not convinced that us having no good harness racing in winter, when the gallops are so poor, is utilising our strengths very well.
Yep, Masquerading was great in second. Idyllic was a winner there as part of the Bathurst Series 2. We'll go further, we'll go stateside now, and you spotted this, Michael. Chris and Me, the 12-year-old, still winning.
What a great story. This is Yonkers last week, the former Miracle Mile winner and Auckland Cup winner. And God, he's a great old horse, Greg. It was bred to be a great horse. He's just been magnificent, and to see him last week at Yonkers scooting around over there and still winning again, it is testament to what wonderful horses standardbreds are, Greg. But I think he's a horse who never really got the accolades he deserved. He was never a champion because he was beaten by Terror to Love quite a few times. Adore Me got him a couple of times. Man, he was a good horse, and he won a Victoria Cup, of course, as well. So he must have been well looked after, Greg, because they have to be well looked after to get to that late in life. And
he won an Easter Cup, of course, the last race that Terror to Love was in here, and of course it is Easter Cup a week at Addington Raceway this week. We're about to take a short break before, when we come back, we'll have a decent look at a feature meeting on Thursday. Yes, Wyndham, they're back at their track and they have their biggest race of the year, the Kindergarten Stakes, which we'll have a look at with you. Well, we're back at Waimate here. It was the Oamaru meeting, or the Oamaru track. It was the Waimate Club, an unfortunate incident. And Sam Otley we're going to focus in on here. You Can Fly Arden was the horse she was driving in the David Mitchell colours. Shadow Avros lost driver Ange Mugford after the Artful Dodger had fallen. And here was the skill of one of our leading drivers, Samantha Otley. Yes, it took You Can Fly Arden out of play, but she sensed the danger there. Michael Guerin got the opportunity to grab the horse and as a result averted potential catastrophe there, and just another example of her qualities as a horse person.
And most importantly, Greg, the stewards declared both horses non-runners, or not non-runners, Sam's horse a non-runner. Yeah, scratching. So that's important because they've said, hey, this horse safety is more important. Had it been a trotter, not so much. No hopples, they can just keep on galloping, they'll be fine. But when a pacer starts to gallop, Greg, with those hopples on, we all know how badly that can go. Yep. Let alone a horse at a place like Oamaru where they could have disappeared down the main road. Yep. So Sam, we have no doubts on her ability, but she's had an interesting week. Obviously got fined 600 at Addington, then does that. Yep. I think Sam will end up being our most successful ever female driver, and the rate she's winning at, man, it's going to take something special for many of the girls to go past her targets anytime soon. I know we have some really talented young female drivers like Sarah O'Reilly and Sheree Tomlinson, you know, all those sort of people. But man, she's doing a great job, and that's just another indication of what harness racing people can do. Greg, they can shoe horses, they drive trucks, you know, they do all sorts of stuff with horses. You see them riding horses all the time. So they're multi-talented, and that's just an example of it from our leading female ever driver. Yep.
A couple of things not to forget. Don't forget about the United Fisheries Addington Punters Challenge next Friday night, which of course is the big night, Derby night, Cambridge Jewels. Go to Cambridge, go to their website and check it out, 6th of June. Heaps of things for you there, golf tournament, pre-Jewels function, and of course the day itself. Let's have a look around this nation to find out where we're racing this week. Wyndham, which we'll get into the preview in a moment. It is the Macca Lodge Kindergarten Stakes at Group 3 level, 25,000 there. They've also got the Wyndham Cup, $15,000. Gordon Lee says hi to you too, Michael, one of your biggest fans, of course. Then we go to the Manawa 2 that night, 6:01 the start time there, 8 races. They've already had night 1 of the 2 for this week, and they've got the Festival Graduation Series final and the Gold Cup there. Addington on Saturday, $100,000 at Group 1 level, the Brecon Farms Easter Cup, 8 going to the post, but it's an exceptional field. The 2-year-old trotting stakes we talked about with Majestic Sun and the Trotters Flying Mile, along with plenty of strength in the under undercard again as they build towards night 2 of the big 3 over Easter. 5:13 the start time there for Addington. Motokarara on Monday, they've got 9 races there. They start at 12:17. Looking forward to Easter Monday out at the Banks for that. Let's go to the kindergarten though, Michael. This horse has been well spruiked in the media. His name is Akuta. He scooted around Ashburton here in the Ian Dobson colours here, the green, beating Bollinger. They both go head to head this week. Blair Orange will drive Akuta from barrier 2, Bollinger from the 1. I'll tell you what, Bollinger got pretty close here, and you've got to like both of these horses. I think there's a bit of strength to both of them.
Interesting to see how the market comes up here, Greg. There's a fair bit of hype about Akuta. I put that to Hayden Cullen for this show this morning. I said, well, what do you make of it? He said, look, not that much between them. So he wasn't saying, hey, look, Akuta's the best of them, he's going to win. He may well be so. I haven't seen enough of them to know. But I've spoken to Nathalie, Mark and Hayden at different times in the last week for different reasons. And none of them has said to me, this is our best 2-year-old, this is what's going to happen. And they've said that a few times in the past. I've said this will do this and this will do that, and sometimes I've been wrong. But I'm not getting any push, Greg, that he is the totally dominant 2-year-old. So he's open very short.
$1.80?
Yep. Yeah, exactly. But in some of the markets heading forward with thinking, you know, for a sire stakes, for example, his favourite, I don't think it's that cut and dried. Often what you find with the All-Stars horses is they get to the races, often the betters' delights kick goals and keep getting better. Sometimes the other ones do not. This time last year, they thought Pace and Pride was the best 2-year-old. And he wasn't. So I'm just cooling my jets on some of these bets at the moment.
$1.80 Akuta, $3 for Bollinger. Deus Ex was winning the Cheviot Cup, of course, in the Dick Prendergast colours that Matthew Williamson trains in, and I think this horse will be pretty hard to beat, provided he steps as quickly again, Michael, because that's how he won this race. He starts off 20 metres. Memphis, Tennessee and Johnny Mack are back there with him. But sectionally in this race, if he gets home in 26.7 and he's somewhere near the top end, he'll go awfully close to winning the Wyndham Cup, and looking forward to the action out of there. The first race 1:27, the last about 10 minutes to 6 o'clock, but a very good program there at Wyndham on Thursday. Let's go to the hits and misses with the tab. A few that hurt a little bit down the bottom there. 9,000 at 210 on Sunday Sun. Self-assured a $5,000 bet. But someone followed you in with the Honey Queen, Michael, 2,000 at $1.75. And Krug and Shan Noble, particularly Shan Noble, who opened about $2.50. He got crunched into $1.60. So the punters got some there.
Yeah, Honey Queen actually opened at $2 or $2.10, which was great money for a gate speed horse. When you look at that there, Shan Noble got the lead, Krug got the lead. A lot easier when you get the lead. Let's talk about the other side, the misses. Cosmic Major didn't get the lead, beaten for 10K. Sunday Sun didn't get the lead, beaten for 9K. Self-assured didn't get the lead, beaten for 5K. Greg, that's why we talk about it so often. It's a lot easier in front.
Yep, it certainly is. With door contracting, Michael, it's been a bit of a change in terms of who's going to be doing the selecting this week.
Greg, let me take control of this, Greg. Let me take control of this.
Yes.
You've had a run, haven't you, brother? We all have them in life. Yeah. Sometimes I have bad hair weeks. It just happens, brother. Sometimes things just don't go
Well,
your way.
I have them every week, but anyway, yes.
So for the last 4 weeks, punters, Greg has let you down.
I think it might be 5.
It could be 5. And it happens to all of us, but what we've done is we've stood him down. He needs to freshen up. He's a little bit like Bodie Barrett during the Blues campaign. Something's quite right with him. So we'll put Gregory to the side. And we have asked many of our fans, of which there are 2 or 3, to join us on board. Sean Daly. Sean Daly, good guy, owns race horses, also has good hair. He has come to the party. So Sean, if he wins this week, will be maintained as the door contractor, other expert selector. I've happened to have won 5 in a row, but that's okay because they've only been paying $2. But if you added them all up, if you added them all up, it adds up to like $1 million.
Yes.
So here's the selections for this week. We're from Sean Daly. Greg, stay out of this, please. You're embarrassing yourself. Here's Sean Daly and myself, and Sean has gone for a horse at Addington. I have no idea what it's called.
A Taste of Honey.
Even better. And I've gone for another horse.
Yeah, True Fantasy.
I think True Fantasy, who ran second last week, will probably
it should be $1.60. So
but
that's awesome.
If Sean wins, he will maintain Greg's spot, and if he wins 3 weeks in a row, he gets to host the show. He gets to host the show.
Yep, well, good luck with that. Yeah. Working with you, that'd be great fun, I'm sure.
So, Greg, don't feel bad about it. We've all had bad runs. You know,
Yeah,
seriously.
for what it's worth, anyone who wants to follow you, and Franco Yorick, I think, will win race 1 on Saturday night. There you go, Michael. I don't know.
Nobody cares.
Okay. All right, really appreciate your effort this week, Michael, and the bagging at the end's been well received.
It's not a bagging, Gregory, it's a fact. Not a bagging.
We'll be back in 7 days.